They say the most dangerous creature ever born was jailed for stepping off a curb. That's not a joke. That's how it starts. In the shadowed reaches of the Andromeda Void, nestled on the twisted ruin of an asteroid named Daggerhold 9, lay the most unforgiving prison in known space, Karrak's Deep. No windows, no second chances, just one final descent into oblivion. It was built not for justice, but for containment. The asteroid itself looked tortured, like the galaxy had taken a chisel to its surface, carving out hatred over millennia. When the Council chose it, they didn't renovate, they weaponized it. Karrak's Deep's perimeter shimmered with lethal energy bands, humming like a choir of angry stars. Beautiful if you enjoyed vaporization. Defense turrets dotted the surface like rotting teeth, each capable of sterilizing a planet. From orbit, it looked like the prison was clawing into the rock itself, desperate to hide from the universe's judgment. Inside, worse. Oxygen recycling barely passed survival thresholds. Inhaling felt like swallowing engine coolant. Gravity was tuned to oppress. Walking meant dragging metal weights with your bones. The lighting flickered with the pulse of a dying pulse star, and whatever fluid oozed from the walls hadn't been identified, mostly because no one wanted to. Most inmates lasted 90 standard days before breaking. Some didn't make it that far. The record was held by a Zephyrian ghost killer named Threx 7, who after 137 days tried to eat the floor. The guards found him murmuring lullabies to his spoon and claiming he was being hunted by chairs. They kept him isolated, partly for safety, partly because watching him sing to furniture was their only source of entertainment. And then there was the warden, Komar Dravex. Tall as a cargo loader, built like an armored insect tank and just as welcoming. His face belonged in a horror archive, and his voice? Imagine gravel arguing with thunder. Komar didn't administer Karrak's Deep. He owned it. Promoted from his early years on the pleasure moon Aravel 6, where crowd control meant asking dissenters to step into a soundproof negotiation pod where nobody ever came out. After 17 years of such diplomacy, he was reassigned to Bax Prime's prison ring. In 6 months, inmates stopped dying, not out of mercy, but out of fear. The Council saw potential. Make them beg for erasure, they told him when handing him the keys to Karrak's Deep. Komar glanced at the torture labs, the food unit designed to psychologically humiliate, and the mind fracture wing. His reply? Leave it with me. Under Komar's reign, Karrak's Deep became legend. Smugglers spoke of it in hushed curses. Syndicates issued contracts just to avoid being sent there. Settle now, or you're getting the Dravex treatment. Could end entire wars. Even whispers of the place dropped crime rates across 16 star systems. Effective for peace, devastating for Komar's ego. He liked torment, and he was getting bored. Until today. A new arrival. Not just any inmate, a Deathworld specimen. Class 15. To clarify, nothing had ever breached Class 12 until now. For 3 days, Komar received progressive alerts. Extreme restraint protocols required. Cognitive abilities exceed prediction models. Containment systems no longer adequate. And finally, may whatever gods remain have mercy. Standing behind his reinforced viewport, Kamar watched the incoming ship, the Judgment's wake, descend like it regretted every decision in its life. Hull scorched, engines coughing. It looked like a wounded animal begging to be retired. Pilot logs revealed 17 escape attempts, 12 successful breaches of restraint systems. One incident had the prisoner not only exiting his cell, but politely asking to assist the crew with hyperspace plotting. No threats, no force, just unsettling charm. The landing thrusters sputtered on final approach. Some reports claimed he'd even suggested improvements to their internal compression array. Nobody asked how he knew about those systems. Nobody dared. Kamar's mandibles clicked in anticipation. This wasn't an inmate. This was the beginning of something far more interesting.
A heavy hiss echoed across the deck as the transport ship's ramp creaked downward. It sounded less like machinery and more like the universe reluctantly exhaling. Emerging from the ship were 6 guards in full trauma armor, except they didn't move like soldiers. They staggered, eyes twitching, weapons half raised, not from combat wounds, but something deeper, something that had rewritten their sanity. One hollow guard whispered, "They're broken. Look at them." The guards formed a loose perimeter, leaving the center conspicuously empty. None dared look toward the ramp. One, a klaxon officer whose shell normally gleamed sapphire blue, now pulsed a sickly chartreuse. He looked as if sleep and career planning had both abandoned him. "Presenting prisoner Marcus Chen," the transport's ranking officer called out, voice cracking like fractured glass. "Classification, Deathworld Class 15, approaching containment zone." Silence fell across the landing pad, not a pause, an atmospheric shutdown. Even the asteroid's tectonic hum seemed to hold its breath. Dravix leaned forward slightly, 3 hearts thudding like war drums. This was it, the arrival of the highest classified entity ever processed in the galaxy's penal network. What stepped into view was underwhelming. 6 feet tall, humanoid frame, 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, all arranged traditionally. Skin tone, medium bronze, like a sun-warmed alloy. Hair, black, messy, seemingly self-styled by gravitational turbulence. Chen descended the ramp like he was stepping into a luxury spa, not into a fortress engineered to fracture spirits. The gravity clamps didn't seem to faze him, nor did the neurodampeners wrapped around his spine and throat like serpents. If anything, he looked down politely to avoid stepping on his restraint cables. "Nice place," he said, with authentic admiration. "Building a prison into an asteroid? That's some architectural genius. Someone around here really understood logistics." The transport squad flinched in unison, as if he just threatened to detonate himself using compliments. One actually whimpered. Commander Zelvar stepped forward from the flanking squad. He belonged to a reptilian apex species, renowned for interrogation and high-threat containment. Tall, weathered, built for precision kills. His eyes scanned Marcus like a diagnostic weapon. "Prisoner Chen," he said, voice low and acidic, "you will obey protocol. Any deviation will be met with total suppression." Marcus blinked at him, then smiled, genuinely. "Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming out yourself. I know things get hectic down here. I really don't want to cause trouble." Zelvar paused. That wasn't normal. No threats, no bravado, no chaos aura. Just casual kindness. "I appreciate," he replied, involuntarily tasting the unfamiliar word. Marcus nodded, despite the pulse collar restricting movement. "Your leadership shows. Smooth operation, everyone's dialed in, respect." By now, the transport guards had begun backing away, not tactically, but instinctively, like survival had activated override mode. One made a sound that resembled a dying oxygen pump. "Sir," the lead pilot muttered to Dravex, inching toward the exit, "we really need to depart. Now, preferably before he complements the reactor core." Dravex stared at Marcus as though examining a paradox written in blood and equations. What exactly had this creature done en route? "He was polite," the officer whispered. "He said please. He asked about our families." No one spoke. Marcus stood in the center of the landing zone, radiant with unsettling calm. Wrapped in restraints strong enough to neutralize anomalies, and yet he radiated an aura more dangerous than any weapon: sincerity. And somewhere deep within the prison walls, reality itself began to shift gears. Guard Johnson wouldn't stop crying. Martinez had filed a formal request for transfer to the Psychic Rehabilitation Division, his hands shaking too badly to hold the pen. As the transport ship departed in a streak of panicked engine flare, Commander Zelvar guided Marcus Chen down the reinforced corridor toward the processing center. The human, still shackled in every way the law allowed, walked as though touring a luxury complex. "So," Marcus said, glancing at the overhead lights, "is this triple-layer photon diffusion? Lovely ambiance. And the guard armor, great deterrent design. Do you get dental?" Zelvar muttered beneath his breath. "This is not protocol." Prisoners were supposed to snarl, resist, go limp with dread. Not whatever this was. The processing center had been engineered to erase the notion of comfort. Screams looped softly from speaker nodes embedded in the walls, audio logs of past inmates cracking. Temperatures hovered just above freezing. The lighting flickered, tuned precisely to irritate the mammalian optic nerve. Marcus stopped, closed his eyes, listened. "Oh, this is smart," he said, nodding with sincere admiration. "Sound diffusion is superb. Echoes carry cleanly. Low-temp system, too. That's got to reduce cooling costs. Efficient and intimidating. Nice work." By the time they reached Isolation Block 7, half the guards were questioning their life trajectories. The rest quietly wondered if they'd been drugged. Marcus's luxury cell was the most soul-grinding unit Grimhold had ever produced. 3 feet by 6, sharp metal slab, semi-functional waste unit, and stuttering illumination like a dying star. The walls were covered in desperate scratchings, messages left by occupants who had not technically survived. Marcus stepped inside, looked around, and grinned like a guest being upgraded at a 5-star resort. "This is perfect," he said. "Minimalist, historical, efficient use of space. You've even preserved legacy artwork. I can't thank you enough." As the cell door slammed shut, its impact calibrated to shatter hope, Marcus eased onto the slab, legs crossed, back straight. He waved to the guards watching through the transparasteel viewport. "Have a great day, folks, and if you need anything, just holler." Commander Zelvar lingered outside the cell. For 17 years, he had processed entities capable of warping gravity, collapsing mines, and slaughtering entire outposts. Not one of them had ever thanked him for the accommodations. Somewhere in his scaled chest, something uneasy began to stir. Not fear, concern. They had just locked up the most dangerous anomaly in known space. Someone genuinely and inexplicably nice. It started on day 3. Guard Brixen had the breakfast round, a Turon with the emotional depth of a quarry and the body mass to match. In 6 years, he hadn't spoken to a prisoner, acknowledged a prisoner, or even made eye contact unless something was on fire. Morning, Brixen, came a cheerful voice through the thick alloy door of cell 447B. Brixen froze. Nobody had ever mentioned his daughter. Most inmates didn't know guards had daughters. He turned slowly. On the slab sat the human, legs crossed again, calmly spooning nutrition paste like it was homemade stew. Brixen's voice was gravel ground in hydraulic fluid. "How do you know about my daughter?" Marcus looked up, blinking in genuine surprise. "Oh, you mentioned it yesterday, talking with Guard Kellex about Tyria Prime's education system. You said she was struggling with quantum maths." Brixen's jaw didn't just drop, it recalibrated. That exchange had occurred 3 corridors away, behind sealed blast doors. Marcus shouldn't have heard it, shouldn't have remembered it. "She is struggling," Brixen admitted, the armor around his words cracking slightly. "Teachers say she's not applying herself. I think she needs a new approach." Marcus nodded gently. "On Earth, we say, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll spend its life thinking it's stupid. Maybe her mind works differently. Has anyone tried explaining quantum mechanics through music or art?" "Music," Brixen repeated, not as rejection, just bewilderment. "What's music got to do with quantum physics?" "Everything," Marcus leaned forward, eyes bright. "Quantum states are like chords, multiple frequencies coexisting until observed. Sound waves, interference patterns, harmonies. If she's artistic, she might grasp entanglement through rhythm." 3 days later, Brixen's daughter cracked her first quantum math puzzle. Her teacher, at Brixen's soft, tentative suggestion, used musical analogies. Within a week, she went from academic probation to top of class.
Brixen began spending his lunch breaks sitting outside cell 447B, trading stories with a human who had no right to exist as he did. They talked about child psychology, rock moss seasoning, fungal cuisines. Others noticed. "It's weird," Kellex whispered during shift handoff. "Brixen's smiling, like really smiling." "When was the last time that happened?" his partner asked. Kellex thought for a long moment. Never. Murmurs of the Chan effect were now embedded in daily operations. Guard Voss, once an insomniac bundle of nerves held together by caffeine and self-loathing, had become a wellness advocate after an evening chat with Marcus. Try the 4-7-8 method. Inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Tells your nervous system you're safe. Voss, a klaxon whose species was evolutionarily calibrated for mild panic, practiced it once out of desperation. 1 week later, he slept better than he had in a decade. 2 weeks in, he was leading breathing exercises for recruits. By 3 weeks, half the staff called it the Chen Protocol. Coping strategies courtesy of the most dangerous inmate in the galaxy. And then came the snacks. No one saw them arrive. Earth goods were strictly prohibited, logged, tracked, and usually incinerated for security reasons. But one afternoon, Marcus casually pulled out a stash of peanut butter crackers, dried fruits, and a chocolate bar that looked like it had done 3 tours in a desert war.
"How?" asked Commander Zelvar. "I made a trade," Marcus shrugged, "with someone who appreciates good conversation." He distributed them with stories. "This chocolate," he explained to Tarnex, a sugar virgin Vorlian, "comes from a plant called cacao. We ferment the beans, roast them, grind them, Mix it with milk and sugar. It's almost pointless, but it makes people happy." Tarnex bit cautiously. Moments later, he murmured, "This is incredible. You engineered joy." Marcus laughed. "Exactly. Happiness is a nutrient, too." Word of Marcus's snack generosity spread like antimatter through fabric. Guards began offering shifts near Isolation Block 447B, hoping not for action, but for anecdotes and energy bars. At the weekly staff briefing, Commander Zalak studied his personnel. No one was scowling. They were cracking jokes. They were engaging. "Has anyone else noticed morale?" "It's Marcus," Captain Throck admitted. "He gives good advice. Suggested something called active listening for me and my mate. No fights in 2 weeks." "Active listening," Zalak repeated slowly. "From the prisoner, the Class 15 prisoner." "Also, he tells dad jokes. They're bad, really bad, but somehow I laugh." Zalak's scales rippled with confusion. His penal fortress had become a self-help center. Guards chatted during breaks, shared breathing techniques, swapped Earth idioms. One particularly unstable Zephyrian, Guard Nexus, broke the fourth wall of suppression during rounds. Tears in his compound eyes. "My brother disowned me, said I was weak, that prison duty shames our warrior heritage." Marcus nodded solemnly. "Family pressure is rough, but you're not a guard. You're a guardian. You face monsters to protect the unknown. That's bravery without a sword." "But warriors carry weapons. You carry courage. That's the sharpest blade in existence." The conversation lasted an hour. By nightfall, Nexus had the posture of a folk legend. Within days, guards gathered voluntarily outside Marcus's cell, trading fears for support. His reputation mutated Grimhold 7's culture more effectively than any morale initiative in galactic history. Through it all, Marcus remained Marcus. Grateful, kind, funny, deadly. Commander Zalak stood at the viewport. Marcus was quietly reading a book, smuggled in by someone he'd apparently helped with grief management. "Chen," Zalak said. Marcus looked up and smiled. "Evening, Commander. How was your day?" He hesitated, then, "Confusing." For the first time ever, he genuinely wanted to know what a prisoner might say. But peace is a fragile alloy. Trouble ignited in Cell Block C. Krex, a 3-armed regalian infamous for murder, piracy, and intimidating jaywalking, was having a tantrum of planetary scale. "What's so special about the human?" he screamed at Guard Vass. "I've rotted here for 8 years. No one asks about my feelings. No one gives me chocolate." Voss took a deep breath. "Well, Krex, when's the last time you asked someone how their day was?" "I ask things all the time. Just yesterday, I asked Jenkins if he wanted to die quickly or slowly." "Yeah," Voss sighed. "That's not really the same." The jealousy spread faster than a GN flu outbreak. Inmates demanded therapy, better food, emotional support groups. The rest plotted the total, merciless destruction of the human who'd cracked the social hierarchy. Then came the infamous Grimhold 7 cafeteria incident. It began when Vex 9, a former Zephyrian assassin who currently believed himself to be a decorative succulent, declared he would photosynthesize the human into submission. No one knew what that meant, including Vex 9. Still, The pro-Marcus faction took it as a declaration of war. Leading the opposition, Thark Blade, a dramatic Vorlon warrior who had legally changed his name from Eugene during his third conviction for aggressive posing while under-armored. His brand had been built on being terrifying. Marcus was undermining it. "This ends now," Thark declared, pointing at the isolation block with his cybernetic arm. "That human made this prison soft, weak. I won't stand for it." Surprisingly, Marcus's defenders rallied around Zix the Unpronounceable, a sentient blob from Andromeda, imprisoned for identity theft and drunken impersonation of his planet's ruler. Zix had never met Marcus, but he'd heard of the chocolate, and chocolate must be defended. "Torch Marcus," Zix said, vibrating ominously, "and I absorb your bones." "You deal with Zix," the blob declared, a statement surprisingly intimidating for something that looked like a sentient bowl of jelly. Its surface trembled with conviction. Grimhold 7 was spiraling toward open revolt. Guard Brixen, normally a fortress of gravel and silence, did something unprecedented. He asked Marcus Chen for help to prevent a riot. That meant releasing the galaxy's most dangerous prisoner for a staff meeting. First time in the history of the facility. Marcus stepped out of isolation like he'd been vacationing at a wellness retreat. Somehow freshly groomed, clothes pressed, hair trimmed. Nobody asked how. "Oh wow," Marcus said, eyes wide at the cafeteria's barricaded standoff. This is about me, isn't it? I'm so sorry, everyone. I never meant to cause trouble." Thane Darkblade, formerly Eugene, cybernetic limb thrumming like an angry blender, stepped forward. "You have made this prison weak, human. I challenge you to single combat." Marcus blinked. "I don't think that's necessary, but I appreciate the passion. Would you like to talk about what's actually bothering you?" "What?" "Well, you feel your position is threatened. That's incredibly stressful. Could it be that what you truly want is acknowledgement, respect?" Thane's dioramatic posture wobbled. I am the most feared prisoner in cell block B." "And that's impressive," Marcus said sincerely. "But fear's exhausting. Wouldn't it be nice to just relax for once?" 20 minutes later, Thane was seated discussing toxic power dynamics, emotional burnout, and the healing potential of pottery. The anti-Marcus alliance imploded. Zix the Unpronounceable declared victory and demanded chocolate tribute. Warden Corvex finally noticed things were off. Specifically, he noticed Captain Throck delivering Mon-standard food to cell 447B. "Throck," Corvex said, voice sharp with disbelief, "you went to the market on your day off to bring fruit salad to a Class 15 prisoner." Throck beamed. "He never tried Alaran fruit salad. I figured, why not?" "Why are guards lining up to speak with him?" "He's helping me with relationship issues," Throck said matter-of-factly. "My wife says I listen better now. Marcus taught me emotional intelligence." "You learned emotional intelligence from the most classified specimen in the galaxy." "Oh, he doesn't like that label. He prefers just Marcus, or the guy from Earth." Then came the tipping point. The first annual Grimhold 7 Friendship Tournament. Marcus pitched it as a team-building initiative. "It's about building bridges," he explained to Commander Zalak. "Collaboration through competition. Also, it's fun." "Fun?" Zalak echoed, as if testing a foreign dialect. "You know, joy.
camaraderie, that squishy feeling you get when people don't want to murder each other. The event was a chaotic, radiant disaster. Guards and prisoners mixed into teams. Chess, trivia, poetry recitation, and charades, which Zix dominated despite having no limbs. Fane Darkblade revealed a hidden gift for poetry. His piece about the loneliness of interstellar travel moved 5 guards and 2 convicted assassins to tears.
Vex 9 stopped believing he was a plant long enough to win chess, then tried to water the board in celebration. Guard Nexus won poetry with a haunting elegy about duty and honor. The trivia finale ended in a tie, Marcus versus Dr. Krell. Their shared love of anatomy was bizarrely wholesome. In his office, Warden Corvex watched it unfold across 12 security feeds. His maximum security prison had become a community center. Prisoners laughed with guards. Guards shared food with prisoners. Someone taught them an Earth song. They all sang, poorly, earnestly, together. "This isn't how prisons work," Corvex muttered. But he didn't stop it. No one was plotting escape, or murder, or insurrection. Instead, they were planning next week's poetry topics. The tournament ended with Marcus crowned Friendship Champion, a title delivered with recycled tray crown and a certificate signed by everyone. Marcus stood in the cafeteria, certificate in hand, surrounded by former enemies now united in off-key harmony. "Thank you," he said, smiling. "This has been the best day I've had in months. You've made me feel so welcome." And somewhere in the depths of Grimhold 7, the laws of psychology, sociology, and probably astrophysics quietly resigned in bewilderment. Because Marcus Chen had done the impossible. Marcus Chen had transformed Grimhold 7 into something the galaxy didn't have a word for. A place people wanted to be. That illusion shattered, almost, the moment the Galactic Council's inspection ship arrived. It was called the Bureaucratic Excellence, and it fell from orbit like a weaponized spreadsheet. Bristling with scanners, clipboards, and the kind of procedural malice that only comes from decades of policing joy, the ship cut through atmosphere like a tax audit at a birthday party. Leading the team, High Inspector Valdris Korth. She stood 9 feet tall, 6 spindly legs, voice like a broken blender chewing metal filings. Her compound eyes rotated with unsettling precision. Korth had made her career of converting functioning institutions into bureaucratic disasters. Her record was pristine. 23 years of inspections, not one positive report. "Warden Corvex," she announced upon arrival. "This is a surprise inspection under Regulation Code 4847B. You have 30 seconds to explain why your facility is playing music."
Sure enough, rising like a rebellion from within the complex, an Earth melody, the one Marcus had taught everyone. It was being performed by alien vocal cords never meant for harmony. Corvex inhaled and squared his massive shoulders, trying to resemble a professional who hadn't surrendered his prison to wellness culture. "Inspector, we've been trialing innovative rehabilitation techniques." "Rehabilitation?" Korth spat the word like it was molded in rancid cheese. "This is a maximum security facility. We don't rehabilitate, we contain." Signs of contamination emerged immediately. Guard Station Alpha. Voss was having lunch with 778C, a Klaxon smuggler meant to be in solitary. "Explain," Korth demanded. "Oh, Vex here was struggling with mattress alignment. Marcus taught me posture tips. Spinal alignment boosts cognition by 37%. Amazing, right? Korth froze mid-step. Who is Marcus? Marcus Chen, human in cell 447B, staff development advisor. Changed everything. The deeper the inspectors marched, the worse it got. Cell Block C, Thane Darkblade leading a pottery class. His latest creation, a lopsided vase praised for emotional vulnerability. It captures my struggle with authority, Thane explained. Captain Throck nodded reverently. Recreation Hall, Zix the Unpronounceable refereeing a chess match with a whistle and a language of pops and gurgles. Everyone understood it. Then, Isolation Block. Cell 447B was surrounded. Guards and inmates seated in a circle, rapt, listening through the speaker system. Marcus was mid-sentence. And that's why communication matters in every relationship. Not just listening to respond, but listening to understand. Guard Brixton scribbled notes like a college freshman at a philosophy lecture. My daughter told me this last week. I didn't hear her then, but I'm hearing now. You're never too late to begin, Marcus replied warmly. Inspector Korth shoved through the crowd like her world was disintegrating. Prisoner Chen, I am High Inspector Veldris Korth. We need to speak now. Marcus smiled, genuinely. Of course. Nice to meet you. I hope you're having a good day. The phrase, help you with, nearly caused the inspector's neural subroutines to reboot. Never in 47 planetary inspections had a prisoner offered help. I need to understand. What happened here? This place had an 87% prisoner fatality rate, guard turnover of 200%. Now, 0 fatalities, 0 resignations, and inhale, happiness. Marcus beamed. That's wonderful. People deserve dignity, better working conditions, safer lives. I'm so glad things improved. The interrogation lasted 3 hours. Korth fired questions like energy bolts. Marcus responded with honest kindness, insight, and the terrifying power of empathy. Finally, exasperated, she asked, "What's your secret?" Marcus shrugged. There isn't one. I just treat people the way I'd like to be treated. Everyone's doing their best in a hard situation. Kindness goes a long way. In Warden Korvex's office, the inspection team gathered. Korth reviewed her notes with trembling mandibles. Her expression, shell-shocked, dismantled, unmoored. And what she said next was destined to become legend. High Inspector Veldris Korth had reviewed thousands of institutions across the galaxy. She'd seen disasters so complete they required annexes just to list the violations. But Grimhold 7? This facility, she said, voice sharp as plasma glass, has achieved the impossible. Her compound eyes shifted in disbelief. 100% prisoner compliance, 0 violent incidents, staff morale levels off the charts, and what can only be categorized as institutional healing. Warden Korvex, still reeling from the discovery that his career had apparently been redeemed by a human who thanked guards for arresting him, nodded slowly. Korth continued, each word peeling reality back further. I am recommending you for immediate promotion to Regional Prison Administrator. Your mandate, replicate these techniques across the entire Galactic Corrections Network. What? You've accidentally discovered the most effective rehabilitation framework in recorded history. Marcus Chen, when offered early release in exchange for transforming the concept of galactic criminal justice, smiled gently. Oh, thank you. That's incredibly kind, but I'd like to stay a little longer. These folks feel like family now, and things are just starting to get interesting. Inspector Korth left Grimhold 7, carrying the first positive inspection report of her storied career, and a growing suspicion that she had witnessed a shift so fundamental, entire textbooks would need to be rewritten. Meanwhile, in cell 447B, Marcus settled in for another evening of open-floor conversation, blissfully unaware that he had reprogrammed criminal justice by accident. 6 months later, Grimhold 7 was the most sought-after assignment in the Galactic prison service. Once reserved for punishment transfers and professional exiles, it now required a multi-month waiting list, 3 character references, and a psychological screening to ensure applicants could survive the Marcus Chen effect. Administrator Corvex, adjusting to his new title and constant flow of dignitaries, stood at his panoramic office window. Instead of soul-crushed marchers, guards now literally skipped to morning duty. Many were competing for a coveted spot, Marcus Chen's consultation hours. "Sir," chirped his new assistant Zeph, a radiant Altarian who had applied specifically to join the Happy Prison. "Kellex and Voss are disputing the afternoon Marcus shift." Corvex sighed, a sound but no longer echoed with despair. "They both want it?" "Worse," Zeph confirmed. "They've joined forces with Brixen, Tarnax, and Nexus. They've formalized under a banner the Marcus Appreciation Society. They've submitted a petition to extend his hours to include weekends." Outside, chaos bloomed quietly. Marcus stood in the recreation yard, guiding a coalition of assassins, pirates, and interstellar war criminals through something called volleyball. Thane Darkblade, formerly Eugene, spiked the ball. Zix, the unpronounceable, gurgled cheerfully and dove for it. Corvex's brain refused to accept the data. Galactic attention mounted. Titan Detention requested Marcus for a weekend workshop. Nebula Correctional offered 3 guards and a gravity generator for a 2-week visit. The Void Station petitioned for its own Class 15 Deathworld Rehabilitation Specialist. Zeph, now fully embedded in administration, read out loud from her datapad. 17 new guard applications, 6 xenopsychology research grants, and 1 marriage proposal. Corvex paused mid-sip. "Marriage proposal?" Zeph nodded. "Princess Vexera of the Crimson Nebula. Claims his wisdom has pierced the void. She wishes to bear his offspring, to distribute his compassion across future generations." Corvex placed his tea down carefully. "File that under things I never thought I'd manage as a prison administrator." But the most remarkable shift? The prisoners. Rehabilitation soared to 94%. Some inmates declined parole to finish Marcus's life skills workshops. Former mercenaries took courses on empathy. V9 had stopped believing he was a plant and now studied actual horticulture. The greatest irony? Marcus remained an enigma. Despite daily talks, Corvex had never learned the details of his conviction. It was Brixen who finally asked, tea in hand, notebook prepped, "Marcus, we've been friends for months, but you've never told us, what did you do? What earned you a Class 15 classification?" Marcus blinked, genuinely confused. "Oh, that? I'm not classified that way because of my crime. I'm Class 15 because I'm from Earth. It's automatic. We're a death world." "Then what was your actual crime?" Marcus hesitated. "Well, this is awkward." Brixen leaned in. "Go on." Marcus sighed. "I was sentenced to 30 days for jaywalking." The silence that followed was so profound, even the asteroid's life support system seemed to echo louder than necessary. "Jaywalking," Brixen repeated, blinking slowly. "Yeah, crossed outside the designated pedestrian zone on Station Alpha 7. Turns out it's considered a high-risk offense in orbital jurisdictions."
The judge said I'd flagrantly violated traffic protocols and sentenced me to 1 month in minimum security to reflect on civic responsibility." Voss stared, stunned. 30 days? That's it? I was supposed to serve my time and leave, but everyone was so kind. There was real work to do, and I felt like I was making a difference. "So you stayed," Brixen said softly. Marcus smiled. "I've been having the time of my life." That evening, Administrator Korvac sat alone in his office. On his desk lay Marcus Chen's original sentencing records, unearthed for the first time amid 6 months of bureaucratic backlogs and planetary media attention. 30 days for jaywalking? The most feared inmate in galactic history was a human who crossed the street in the wrong place and chose to stay. Not for freedom, not for redemption, but because he liked helping people. The intercom crackled. "Sir," Zeph said, chipper as ever, "the Galactic Council is on line 1. They're requesting a formal proposal to expand the Marcus Chen model across all maximum security facilities." Korvex looked out the window. In the meditation courtyard below, Marcus was leading a breathing session. Former assassins, pirates, and warlords sat in tranquil silence, following exercises taught by a man whose greatest crime was being overly casual with space traffic regulations. He closed his eyes. "Take a message," he said quietly. "Tell them I'll call back once I figure out what the hell just happened to my prison." And somewhere, tucked behind his disbelief, a quiet truth stirred. That maybe, just maybe, he never wanted it to go back. From Deathworld designation to emotional renovation, Marcus Chen has become the galaxy's unlikeliest catalyst for compassion. But what happens when kindness becomes contagious across star systems? Subscribe to Mystic Nature Sci-Fi for more cinematic HFY shorts, character-driven chaos, and cosmic-scale storytelling with soul. Turn on notifications. Next episode may just challenge the laws of prison, politics, or sandwich diplomacy. Got a theory about Marcus's true purpose, or who should visit Grimhold 7 next? Drop it in the comments. The story isn't over, not by a long shot. Friendship has begun a quiet revolution, and it started at a crosswalk.